Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this webinar. If I can put it this way, 4 wise men from the British-Pakistani community are going to share with us their thoughts on how their businesses have succeeded, to reflect on the country from which they came originally to this their home, the United Kingdom, and to broaden our knowledge of Pakistan itself. So this works to expose their experience in an attempt to learn more about British-Pakistan relations, succeeding as a British Pakistani in Britain, and learning about the future opportunities for UK-Pakistan trade, perhaps. And leading this is my good friend Asif Rangoonwala, a very successful business entrepreneur with interests spanning the food, profit and sports sectors, who's heavily involved in philanthropic activities through his Rangoonwala Foundation. Asif is also chairman of South Street Asset Management, is the founder of UK-based Eurobuns Limited, and heads up as chair the British-Pakistani organization. He is joined, and they will speak in this order, by Mr. Amjad Pervez, who is a seasoned, successful leader with a track record of managing and implementing innovative business solutions, and we will learn more about that. He is followed by Mr. Aneel Mussarat, who started in business in 1989 in the real estate sector, focusing on student accommodation, housing, and commercial development investments. MCR Group, his company, has grown into a very large real estate company operating UK-wide, with offices in London, Birmingham, Manchester, and here in Edinburgh, where I am. And finally, and certainly not least, Dr. Suhail Chughtai, who is a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons, based in Glasgow, and has over 25 years of experience at the level of consultant surgeon. So now it's my great pleasure to hand over to Asif Rangoonwala to launch us off. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you, Roddy, for a very nice introduction to, as you call it, the 4 wise men. I'd make it 3 wise men because I'm not so wise. But let me start off with a little background on myself. I started to work at the age of 17 for my father, and everything I am today is due to his teachings and his kindness, and everything he taught me has made me an extremely successful person. For those people who are working in a family business, who you must respect your elders. When I first started, he told me, he said, Asif, don't talk and listen, because when you listen, you learn. You'll get your chance to talk. Now I don't stop talking because I know a lot. Going forward, I started off my career in logistics and storage, specifically in bulk liquids. I moved on to dry goods. I moved on to FMCG products, into manufacturing. Then from there, I had a complete switch to financial services and investment side, where I used to be the family treasurer, and I was looking after all the treasury activities, which included investment management, as well as taking interest in different organizations and what the companies used to were doing, and were they reporting in time, and were we making enough money in them, and which to start, which to shut down. After that, I progressed on to, I moved to the UK in 1992, and I started a business in manufacturing of breads, which I did very successfully. And much later on in life, around 2011-12, I was hit by this stroke of lightning, which told me that, Asif, maybe you should be looking at becoming an asset manager, which till today I am, and I look after other people's money, and I'm doing a reasonably good job. So that's about me. On the social welfare side, or social entrepreneur side, I am chairman of the British-Pakistan Foundation. I'm trustee of the British Asia Trust, and I am in several other smaller organizations, or even bigger, but more like Coram, Thomas Coram Institute and Whitefield Development Trust. But BPF is right now a focus interest of mine. We're talking about the subject. It's about British Pakistanis. It's a platform platform for British Pakistanis to come together and basically provide the community needs to have a common platform. We've been working on it for 10 years. We have about 22,000 members, but obviously we need more people to come on. If we don't look after ourselves, nobody else is going to. I think the UK as a country has welcomed most of us. A lot of us are now not just UK nationals, but are born here. So we have, we have certain inalienable rights. If we don't consolidate our voter bank into providing, advice on the community and getting facilities available to, like many other communities do, getting facilities for ourselves and our people who are not doing as well as some of us, I think it would be sad to have missed that opportunity. But this country definitely provides you that opportunity. I think I've said my bit, Roddy, if you don't mind, and I would like to, if you agree, I'd like to introduce Amjad Pervez.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Roddy.
Actually, thank you. Yeah.
And thank you, Doug, first of all, for facilitating this. I came to this country in 1969 as a 10-year-old, dropped into London. My father was in the British Army, really like you, and then served in the Pakistan Army. And then after the partition, the British government obviously invited the young soldiers to rejuvenate the economy. But we moved to Bradford in 1971, and there, what I call the center of the world is, and that's where I've grown up, got educated, graduated in '83 in marketing, market research, and product placement, went into financial services for a year. But I'm somebody who can't take orders, and I don't fit into hierarchical institutions. So like most Asians, I opened up a corner shop with my family, and currently we probably have one of the largest food service companies in UK. But I'm what you may call an awesome delegator. I'm a strategist. I don't like doing operational work. So I promised myself to retire at the age of 50, which I did. But then I took on a lot of work with the government. So I was a director on Business Link. And then when the Business Links and the RDAs were disbanded, the local enterprise partners was set up. So I joined the LEP board, led on the education and enterprise board, which was basically about how in the current environment of technology revolution and disruption, how do the education sector and the private sector come together to create an ecosystem of enterprise. You may remember Lord Young's report on business for all. So I was directly working from LEPS in Leeds with Lord Young's report. I've also sat on NHS for 5 years as a strategist, how to optimize, patient-centric health. And a lot of the stuff that I've done here in Bradford was about how we create robust ecosystems of enterprise. And I take everything that Asif has said about our first generation, my father's generation, their grit and determination. They laid the foundations upon which we move forward. But we must remember that when they came, there were no opportunities in India, Pakistan, what is now Bangladesh. But right now, the economic power is moving to the east. And we, as British citizens and entrepreneurs, find a situation which is extremely odd, challenging. But an entrepreneur must be somebody who actually overcomes challenges. So we're in the middle of COVID. We're in Brexit. We haven't got a decent trade deal. And what we, the Asian businesses and the entrepreneur could do is act as a bridge of economic connectivity, and particularly with the post-empire countries and Commonwealth. That is where the good relations are. I mean, if you look at Pakistan, and we're talking about Pakistan, the legal system, the language, the infrastructure, the whole, the English concept of having a good go at business are all present in Pakistan. So right now, I actually chair an organization called Jumpstart Pakistan, which is in 30 countries. We're working with 50 universities in Pakistan. We're in 20 cities, and we have an alternative industrial policy from the government. We believe that we need less government. I repeat, we, the entrepreneurs, want less government, not more, because where government comes, you get regulation and stiflation of entrepreneurs. So what we're trying to do with UKTR, Department of International Trade, and other institutions is to find the disruptive, innovative, and creative companies in Pakistan and connect them with the companies here. So what you get is a confluence of bright ideas, new products and services. What mires UK is lack of productivity and adventurism. What we bring, the Asian entrepreneurs, is global connectivity, entrepreneurialism, that flair for having a go. So together, I think with Pakistan and UK, we will, I think, in the next 5 years, create an environment that can catapult UK back into the top, not just the 6, but my vision and the vision of Asif and Aneel and Dr. Suhail Chughtai is audacious and ambitious. I think a lot of
wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of people have got into this comfort zone, will dump everything into the EEC. For God's sake, let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's get out there and sell British goods. But at the same time, when we feel that we are making money, we need to make that money and the wealth and abundance for those people in Pakistan as well who desperately need it. It is a growing market. And I say, let's get out there and let's do the business.
Amjad, thank you. Bravo. Thank you for that. Now over to Aneel. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Doug, Roddy, thank you so much for inviting me. Asif, hi, thank you for facilitating this. So I was born in 1969 in Manchester. My father migrated to the UK in the mid-60s, and sadly he passed away in 1979. I got into the property real estate rental business when I left school at the age of 17/18 by default, as when my father passed away with his estate, my mother was left 4 houses. I helped my mother look after those 4 houses. My mother in the early 80s was a typical Pakistani housewife with limited language skills. So I was an interpreter and I really got into the rental business. I enjoyed it. So I left school, I looked after the houses, and I bought my first house when I was 18. So I've had a lot of practical experience. So I really, over the last 30 plus years, I've grown the business into quite a large operation. I'm 50 years of age. Like Amjad is very fortunate, he's just retired. Amjad Saab, but I'm just warming up. So I focused on houses between 1989 and 1997. Then from 97 to 2007, built a very large portfolio which consisted of student accommodation, commercial assets, which are offices, warehouses, leisure assets, hotels, shopping centers, literally all over the country. And I really enjoyed the business. I really enjoyed growing the business, but then came the big financial meltdown. I had to navigate my way through the financial meltdown between 2007 and 2011, which is a huge experience. I had a portfolio which was worth about £1 billion sterling. I had debt of about 550 odd million. I was 37 years of age. So I had to navigate my way through that. I had never been to any university, and that was quite an experience. I managed to get through that alive. And since then, I've continued to focus on building the business, evolving in different areas. And one big thing I learned is to focus on the mass market, affordable market. So whether it's offices, I mean, I've got a large portfolio MCR has, which is flexi office space, which has performed extremely well in this COVID world. We have student accommodation, not as much as we had previously, and we have a large portfolio of 7,000 units up and down the country of affordable houses that we're building. So that's all been possible to do because I truly believe the UK is the land of opportunity. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And a few characteristics that you have to develop is you have to love your job, you have to be really deeply involved. Then the gravity, everyone helps you to get into that mode of success. You have to have an attitude of never ever giving up. You have to be upright, focused. And we all make mistakes. I make mistakes daily, but learn from your mistakes. And above all, have dreams with goals. So I dream every day, even at the age of 50, but I dream with goals. So I truly believe this land is it's got enormous opportunity. Now, I believe, sadly, COVID is a horrible, nasty virus. A lot of my family members, my 2 daughters got it, my brother got it, my sisters got it. Thankfully, they all recovered well. But sadly, with COVID, it's going to create opportunities. So please gear yourself up to take advantage of those opportunities. That's why I say I'm just warming up. The next 5 years, I think there'll be a lot of opportunities out there. So far, I think I've had COVID, but who knows? I've been tested, so far so good. But manage risk, be careful, be cautious, but take advantage of the coming years because I think there'll be a lot of opportunities, not just around COVID, but around Brexit. So that's the mindset I have, and that's what I would recommend. And quickly, something very close to me, I've set up a foundation called Aneel Mussarat Foundation, named after my son who's special needs, and my father, late father, which is focused on homelessness in Manchester, and we're building our first free pediatric hospital in Pakistan. As ever, I'll carry on talking a lot more because I do like talking. However, due to time constraints, I think it's a 5-minute barrier, so I'm going to pass it back over to Doug and Roddy. So thank you very much.
Aneel, thank you very much. Well, that's an inspiring story, and I know how successful you've been. Now, you made a reference to the pandemic and the area of healthcare, which is a wonderful segue into our next speaker, Dr. Suhail Chughtai. Over to you in a film, I think, Doug, you have.
I would suggest that you continue proning.
From his home just outside London, this doctor's helping treat a patient in Lahore. Holding a tablet, a doctor there shows him the intensive care ward for coronavirus patients via video link. Hospitals in the country have been stretched. Through this software, they can share case notes. Dr. Akhtar helped lead the COVID-19 response in this part of Britain. Now he wants his experiences to help his country of birth.
We're very proud of the NHS service we're giving here, and because of our relationships both in medicine and otherwise in Pakistan, it was very important for us to help our colleagues and to help the people of Pakistan.
The healthcare system in Pakistan has always been under-resourced, and whilst in some cities the number of new cases now appears to be decreasing, coronavirus has highlighted its weaknesses. To ease the pressure, this London-based doctor created a series of telemedicine portals. Through this one, doctors here can hold consultations with coronavirus patients in Pakistan.
We haven't got resources there to really plug the gaps of service. So any skill, any special skill from UK will be warmly welcome in Pakistan. Where doctor and patient can speak the same language, we can create a bridge no matter where they are through telemedicine.
So far, recorded deaths in Pakistan have been far lower than in the UK. The doctors taking part in this scheme hope they can do their part to save lives in both countries. Sikandar Kamani, BBC News.
So thank you very much, Roddy, for giving me this opportunity.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon based in England, and I had done my fellowship back in 1993 from the Royal College of Surgeons, and have been trained in UK as an orthopedic surgeon. Right now I'm practicing in London. At the same time, 20 years ago, I developed interest in medical IT. I went into Microsoft training, and then I had certified myself as a Microsoft instructor, have delivered more than 100 medical IT courses around 7 countries, including USA. And now at the present, I've got a medical IT company, precisely a telemedicine software consulting and software company, which is serving in 7 countries through its multiple projects. We have over 1 million patient data in the last 6 months gone through our softwares. So I design software, and I have a team of 30 odd developers who code them for me. My father was also a physician, and I take my inspiration from the people you just heard before, people like them, Aneel Mussarat, Amjad, Pervez, and Asif Rangoonwala. At the same time, I take my inspiration from a shopkeeper in a corner shop, because he's honest to his job. He hasn't got resources, but he's giving his best. So these both extremes are my inspiration. And my mission is to create a corridor, a digital health corridor between UK and Pakistan, where the movement of wealth and talent is both ways. And I have partly achieved that. In the last 2 years, Pakistan, the telemedicine was frowned upon in Pakistan. And I studied the reason why it is frowned upon. And what I found was that there's no telemedicine culture in Pakistan. It's a product, it's not a service. So I brought the telemedicine culture in Pakistan. I brought a training system in Pakistan in a university. And now we are running a master's degree course in telemedicine in University of Health Sciences through Professor Dr. Javed Akram. So the education, the need, and what COVID did necessitated the unlearning, accelerated the speed of growth. So that was something which we were ready for telemedicine. We were ready to plug in the gap of service. And then we saved around, I think Pakistan has been quoted as one of the top 7 countries in the world who fought COVID well. And government has recently awarded me a national award for helping that country to provide telemedicine, which served 500,000 people in 4 months. These people could have got corona when they left out, or they could have brought corona back to home, but they stayed at home. They used that service, and we had around 17 medical institutions connected to telemedicine, all from here. And I had a team in Pakistan. I'm thankful to Governor General of Pakistan, to Prime Minister Imran Khan. They also helped. All of them helped. And I think that is one example. And I'm converting that into a book as well nowadays, how to recreate that experience elsewhere. I wish I could do something on a similar scale for NHS. And I'm open to ideas, because if that example could work in a country where the bandwidth is much less, why not deploy the same thing in UK? I have a lot more to say, Roddy. I don't want to eat time of people, but I can speak all day long till tomorrow afternoon on this topic. But thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Well, thank you. It's another wonderful, inspiring story. When this, as indeed, if I may say so, are those of your other 3 colleagues on this call, because many people in the United Kingdom really don't fully understand Pakistan, its history, and of course the spirit which all of you have embodied, from Asif's talk about the need to listen, Ahmad's talk about all the things that he has done and gripped, and his frustrations with the slowness with which people move here, Aneel's story of how he went from one house to building now one of the largest residential real estate companies in the United Kingdom, and Suhail, your own story about this remarkable development you're involved with. And it reminds me that, of course, out of war and military activity, often new inventions come, and perhaps the war on COVID-19 is something to do that. I just want to ask the question of how we can better understand the British-Pakistan community, and for those of us that are not British Pakistanis, and what we should do. And perhaps I could ask Asif to start off with that, and then Ahmad to follow on.
So thank you, Roddy, and once again, thank you to all the panelists that we have, and to yourself and Doug, especially Scotland, the Asia Society of Scotland. I believe that the Pakistanis or the British Pakistanis, especially people like Anil who are born here, you know, they're an integrated part of society and community in this country. And if you look at what some of the work that Anil was talking about, especially on the social welfare side that he's doing and he's achieved, I think it just goes to show that we are very much integrated into the community. We've got 15 MPs, if I'm correct, maybe 14 or 15 MPs. They're mainly from predominantly, you know, the local indigenous people's communities that they have been standing up from. And because of their character, their charisma, and their willingness to, you know, pull up their sleeves and do the work, I think just goes to show how successful the community has been in this country. One of the things that we've been trying to achieve through the BPF, and again, one of the things that I really, really love about this country is that, you know, they're not saying, hey, you can't do it. If you have got it in you, go and do it, and then you can ask for their help. But, you know, nobody's going to step out of the way to help you. So it's about the community coming together to help itself. So that's my key message here.
Perhaps I could go to Aneel next, because Aneel, I know that you have to drop off this call at some point and then come to Amjad, if I could do it that way.
Yes.
Aneel, can you comment on what this subject is?
Yeah, sure. So I think people that are born in the UK do very much feel part of society now, very much integrated, and my children even feel more so. So there is a lot of integration happening. And I think if you're willing to put the extra effort in, the system, everyone along the journey facilitates you to smash the ceiling barriers, push them out of the way. So I think it's down to the individual, and you get a reasonably even hand here. If you have a reasonable attitude, you try, you can get somewhere. So I think we're very fortunate. People that live in the United Kingdom, we're very, very fortunate. That's how I look at it, because I have traveled many third world countries as well, and I know Pakistan extremely well. So I think we're super lucky to be living here. And I think as time goes by, we'll be even a bigger part of the British society fabric. And I think there's enormous amount of contribution from ethnic, especially the Pakistani diaspora. You know, we employ approximately in our 4 offices across the UK about 400 people. On our construction sites, we have a large, several thousand people working up and down the country. So we play our part. So I think, and like Asif I touched on, we've got members in the parliament, councillors and mayors. So we are contributing enormously and making UK a more attractive location globally.
Thank you, Aneel, very much indeed. Amjad.
I tend to agree with my friends and colleagues, Asif and Aneel, by and large. I think because where we come from, we're probably middle class business people, and by the very nature of business, you need to integrate, negotiate, and get the best deal. So the very nature of our enterprises and the way of life that we choose, we have to have a greater social network in order for our businesses and ourselves to succeed. So I grant that. But I think we need to be absolutely honest and brutally truthful. I think there is a massive problem in our inner cities. I mean, I live in Bradford, and I visit a lot of cities. And since I've retired, I visit a lot of cities that have high ethnic minority communities. There is a problem of integration. And that actually, I think, particularly around the Pakistani community, has come because of this war on terror. This war on terror has actually skewed the image of Pakistan. If there is a country that is misunderstood, that is Pakistan. because that wasn't just about economics. It was about political dominance. It was geopolitical games that have been played, etc. I mean, just to give you an idea, Pakistan is the 23rd largest economy in terms of purchasing power. People think it's a begging bowl. It isn't. It is one of the most sophisticated countries. And in the 70s and the 80s, it was the emerging tiger economy. We were teaching the world aeronautics and, you know, the 5-year forward planning. We were the fathers of that, and we built the economies in Middle East, and we taught Turkey and Malaysia. Our administrators were one of the best, but we made a fundamental mistake in 1971 when Bhutto actually nationalized the enterprise and the human capital left, right? But I think today we're talking about how we can, like Aneel and Asif and yourself, UK PLC stands at a perilous situation. We've just borrowed £2 trillion worth of debt to cover this, and this isn't over. So forget whether I'm a Pakistani or whether I'm British, whether I'm far right or left. Ultimately, if UK PLC sinks, God forbid, we all sink. This is a unique opportunity for all communities to come together. And like I said before, the UK PLC needs to use its diversity to create those bridges of economic activity. And you've seen in Suhail, Chughtai, Dr. Tai, what can be done. You've seen what Asif is doing. You've seen what I'm doing across the globe. And hundreds and thousands of Pakistanis who've got this natural flair for business. Let us, for God's sake, forget this difference, right, of them and us. We're now fifth. I've got, my children are here, my grandchildren are here. I've made bulk of my investments here. Time to unite and bring this country forward and bring it to its glory again.
Thank you so much for that. And Suhail, would you like to, from your perspective as a doctor, could you comment on, I mean, there are occasionally, of course, you may feel that people jump to conclusions about people of Asian origin and from Pakistan or from India, and have you encountered that in your work, and how do you overcome it?
You know, Roddy, my father worked in Bolton Royal Infirmary as a registrar in pediatrics. When I was a little boy, walking from Russell Street in Bolton, in Queen's Park, back to the Royal Infirmary, my mother used to take me to school in Bolton General School back those years. Once my father told me an incident. He came home very, very cross and angry. And then my mother later told me when I grew up that a lady refused to see him because he was a Pakistani colored doctor. Although the lady apologized later. But now is the status, 1.3 million Pakistanis in UK and constituting quite a significant chunk of NHS health structure. And now the Pakistani doctors are respected. The learning has been both ways. Maybe the doctors working here have learned to respect the traditions better. Maybe the culture in UK has learned to respect the talent, regardless of color and creed. So the learning has been both ways. This journey is not singular. Both nations have traveled together. Now 1.3 million Pakistanis in UK, they have businesses here. They have products which are digital. They have physical products. And same in Pakistan, physical and digital products. And my intention is, I've served as the president of the World Congress of Overseas Pakistanis for 3 years. And now I'm the director of digital health in APPS UK Doctors Organization and also the Conservative Friends of NHS. I plan to help develop an economic corridor for healthcare digital products. I think that's a great market. It will promote people want to come to UK for treatment. People in UK want to go to Pakistan for medical tourism. There's a traffic both ways, and traffic of wealth and money and talent and knowledge. So my intention, my mission is there, and I think I'm well underway on that. I had the success so far, and I'm very encouraged by what I saw in the last 6 months of my products.
Thank you. That's very, very interesting. I'm going to ask Doug now if he has a question and whether he would like then to open up the floor to others who are listening, which I'm sure will generate other ideas. Thank you. Doug.
Roddy, indeed I do. I have lots of questions, but we have a question from a member of our audience today, Komal. Perhaps if you'd like to ask your question please.
Hello. As a Brit Pakistani first generation, I was born here and grew up here and have a very successful career. And I'm looking at the future at my children. And as the diaspora becomes less and less connected with Pakistan, it'd be really, really good if we could have some sort of forum or resource really just to show that the opportunities that are available in Pakistan so that they can access them, because we've heard some horror stories about when people have tried to trade Pakistan, things haven't gone so well. We've also heard some really amazing successes, but it all comes down to connections and having those sorts of connections. I was also approached by a friend who was a non-Pakistani friend who asked me, oh, by the way, who do I need to go for this? And I was like, so, you know, it would be really good if we could create a log or a resource where we can access you know, key contacts, key opportunities, and it's refreshed maybe on a monthly basis. It would be great to have that. That was my question.
Thank you.
If that's something we could do.
Thanks. Yeah.
If you may,
Amjad,
Roddy, I'll take that if you want.
Please do. Yes.
Kamal, that an absolutely brilliant aspiration, like we're saying. Probably 10 years ago, I was in exactly the same position where we wanted to create an independent body or an organization that could do that. I've talked about Jumpstart Pakistan. We started that in 2014. It's probably one of the largest entrepreneurial movements in the history of Pakistan. It's in 30 countries. We're working with 50 universities. Every single institution of government, and particularly private sector, is on it. We've got 12 sectors. And the key is to take the Pakistani goods and services, like Dr. Suhail was saying, and connect them with companies overseas. That is the key thing. So you're more than welcome to talk to me, or just look up www.jumpstartpakistan.com and it's all there. But I think the reason why you've heard nightmare stories about Pakistan in terms of trading is because we don't follow the protocol. The Department of International Trade is here to actually protect our interests. So if you're going to trade with Pakistan, I would suggest to you that you go through the Department of International Trade. You know, largely what tends to happen is we use our relatives and friends, and it's very informal. And when money starts flowing in, things go horribly wrong. So I would say there are, you know, brilliant ways of doing it. You know, we talk to Board of Investment and various other authorities, do take the formal approach. And now Pakistan is actually, you know, they've jumped up 18 points in terms of ease of doing business, etc. So things are improving. Yes, there's a long way to go, but I'm more than happy to connect, Kamal, with you and maybe take that forward.
Amjad, thank you. Doug, any more?
Yes. I'd just like to just also, I think Amjad has sort of like addressed most of this question, but I think that outside of entrepreneurs and business, you know, there's the whole social issues that we face. And I think some of the issues that Kamal brought up about our community struggling, you know, whether it be our, you know, especially British, those people who are born here and who've grown up here, and you know, and there's at times confusion, whether it's, you know, the ways of Western thinking and the way we back home have portrayed ourselves over here, and we've been allowed to remain a community here. But sometimes there is confusion for young people as to, you know, why can we not do this or why can we do that? And at times it's a dual approach. And again, not because I'm trying to sell the British-Pakistan Foundation here, but the British-Pakistan Foundation has identified most of these issues. If you go onto their website, there are at least 7 or 8 different professional forums. You can join them, whether it's legal, whether it's social, whether it's for women, for the PACSOCs, which are the Pakistan Societies of the Universities, whether it's even people like Upside, who are, you know, who are the academics or Pakistani or British Pakistani origin academics, they have their own setup. So one of the things that Kamal has actually said is actually what the BPF is all about. It's about a platform for young Pakistanis to look at it and say, and most people, the question they ask is, well, what do we get, right? Well, you'll only get when you give. You can't keep on getting. We are already getting a lot from this society, from the UK as a country itself. So to be able to get stuff, you have to give stuff. And whether you give your time, whether you become a member, whether you join one of the social forums. So, if you would like to take a look at that, I'd suggest that on a social side, whereas I'm just very much on entrepreneurial and business side.
Thank you, Asif.
Asif, thank you. We have a question from Hassan. Hassan, perhaps if you would lead with your question. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, panel. Very, very interesting conversation. Really enjoyed it. And I think just following on from Mr. Rangoonwala's point of making, don't ask what you could do for the country, but what you can do for the country. Famous words of JFK. Interesting point. I think without taking a pessimistic view of Pakistan, we just need to see how we could effectively implement the systems and the processes that we have here into Pakistan and see what we can do. But my point pertaining to my question earlier was the ease of doing business. I think it's extremely difficult to set up an organization there. I was looking to set up a cultural exchange program. I'm part of Google Startup Grind and I'm ambassador for South Asia, in particular the Pakistan region, and had opportunities I'm a strategy consultant. So when I speak to young Pakistanis, I think there's an overly pessimistic view and everyone wants to view Pakistan as a very medieval society, which is not correct. It's a very progressive society, but we also need to understand historically we inherited disasters, may that be socioeconomic, political, whatever it may be. We need to just understand how we can assist it and just play ball with the situation. And I would like to understand, Mr. Pervez and Mr. Rangoonwala and Dr. Chughtai, you guys are doing incredible stuff. Somebody like myself, who's 28 years old, how can we join and be part of your legacy?
Do you want, Rudy, do you want me to answer that?
Why you start?
Yeah, Hassan, an absolutely a brilliant scenario that you've painted and a realistic one. So granted that, but you've also got to look at the context of this quagmire in history. So post 71, when Bhutto nationalized and then Zia came in and then Musharraf and everybody, and then in the last 30 years, we've nothing, I mean, I'll use these words, we've nothing but pillage and corruption. Imran and his government, and I'm not being political, I don't take political sides, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I mean, for once we have somebody at the top and government ministers, right? And I've been working in Pakistan as a trader for nearly 30 years, and now as an entrepreneur trying to create an ecosystem of enterprise now for nearly 4 years, and our organization's been there for 6 years. Let me tell you, Hassan, the government is definitely listening, but to change a culture set of, personalized service and personal delivery to a digital economy and process-led economy is not going to happen over. You're a strategist, so am I, right? So it's going to take time. So what we've done at Jumpstart Pakistan and with Asif Bhai, I'm part of his BPF. It's a brilliant organization. Jumpstart and BPF can't work on their own. They've got to work in partnership, and we're working in partnership. But what we do need, right, and what we've done is we've created a separate private sector industrial policy, which would be consistent for the next 15 to 20 years, irrespective of which government comes in. The armed forces are on board, the civil government is on board. What we now need, like I said, is we need the companies here and those in Pakistan, and it won't be everybody, Hassan, it needs to be those 15 to 20% disruptive, innovative, creative, who've got a mindset of abundance, and they need to have grit and determination. Anybody who thinks this is going to be easy, forget it. You can't be part of that. It's the early adoption of innovation. So, if you want to join Jumpstart, you can do. If you want to go join Asif's organization, he's there to help. we must work together and be persistent, because the opportunities are humongous. And if the risk is there and the opportunities are there, I, for one, and my organization is going to carry on. But would love to come, bring you on board, Hassan.
Absolutely, and I'd be honored. And I think what you've said, Amjad Saab, it's absolutely bang on. The need for synergy.
Absolutely.
I think when not all of us are going to solve problems. However, if we've got 2-3 people, knuckleheads. You're an entrepreneur. We got 2 strategists. We got one, Mr. Rangoonwala. He's an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, and I think we've got a right mix. And I think having a young Pakistani fresh blood coming in, it's going to be imperative to the vision of this overall platform that we have.
Sam, thank you very much indeed. Asif, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that question.
So I think a lot of the pieces of the puzzle are in place, and Hassan, very good question. And Dr. Suhail, maybe you would want to add this, but I just wanted to say one piece that, look, if you want something to work, you got to have a collection of data and information. And when we talk about businesses and we talk about entrepreneurs, the problem is that, and it's an issue that it's just about overcoming it. Okay, so for example, I get calls at BPF, or the BPF gets calls about Pakistani exporters saying, well, we need information on. Now, we don't have that information, right? A lot of the information is available with the, I think there's a Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce, which is based here, right? I mean, we've spoken to them, and not a criticism of them, but they really don't have any information. The embassy, they've got information, but they never want to share with us, okay? So I think it's about getting people like yourself, Hassan, who are, and this whole seminar is so important because it's got young people on it. Look, if we don't look after ourselves, nobody's going to look after us. So,
100%.
If Amjad Bhai wants information and communication between the 2 entrepreneur communities, at least we need to be able to provide them information of what we have here, right? What is available to them? I get so many complaints from people from here who want to go to Pakistan, but they don't have any information on anything, right? So again, as I said, these are things that need to be developed, and they do take time. But the platform is there now. You can jump on board, you can work with us. And as I said, this is about giving back. This is not about taking, okay?
I love that.
And I think we are in a prime position to actually build the community from the ground up, and this is the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Suhail, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'm actually very happy to hear what Hassan said, and it seems like he's just energy packed and ready to go and launch himself, which is very good. I'll give you one example rather than give you a scenario. This COVID-19 telemedicine helpline is set in Pakistan. Lots of young Pakistani doctors I took from UK. Now, who actually were introduced to the system in Pakistan? They wanted to help the country. They wanted to know the culture, and they ended up becoming part of a great network of helping. Same way as Mr. Rangoonwala and Mr. Pervez has said, they have organizations, you can join their network, and they have so many projects going on in Pakistan. If you're interested in healthcare, my company can help you. Otherwise, their businesses are already established, and you can become part of an entrepreneurial network and lead that. What I did in Pakistan was set up an example, a pilot. The government had lost trust in telemedicine. I restored their trust by creating a successful example. You can do the same in many sectors.
Absolutely. And Dr. Saab, first and foremost, incredible work you've done. And I think it needs recognition. I think telemedicine is the way forward. Not only it's efficient, but it's actually bringing ideas from experts from different parts of the world to a place that desperately needed it. And I think people like yourself who are pioneers, who understand not only the economics of having technology and a skill set of physicians, it's essential. And I would love to understand more about your business, and I would love to introduce you to people at Google.
Hassan, thank you very much indeed. We're short on time, so I'm trying to get a few questions in. We've got Sid, who's been waiting to ask a question for some time. I think it's going to be for you, Asif, to start with. Sid, please, if you'd ask your question.
Thank you very much, Doug. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Brilliant session today. I'm currently studying real estate at Cass Business School. And the reason my question is for you, Mr. Rangoonwala, and for Mr. Mussarat as well, is that I'm very interested in exploring and doing some research on some of the reasons how wealth inequality in Pakistan can be tackled through concepts of real estate, such as real estate planning. I'd welcome any ideas, kind of what work any of your institutions are doing, or what work I could potentially do, especially with other forums as well, through through the Pakistani Heritage Foundation, in order to be able to do some meaningful research that can help eradicate poverty through real estate planning and wealth distribution in Pakistan.
Oh, that's a good one. So if I can just start off this one, Anil, maybe Anil right now is involved not only in development here, but also in Pakistan. So Anil, I think you'll be more appropriate to start off the answer to this question. Anil?
Can you put me on the video?
Okay.
The video, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, Aneel, but we can't see you at the moment.
I know, it says this, I've been blocked.
Okay, so while Anil comes on, look, I think that, first of all, it's a great place it's a great question. And I think there is a requirement for this kind of structured development in Pakistan. Now, whether or not there's enough entrepreneurs, I personally, I don't believe, and I know that the government of Pakistan under Mr. Imran Khan, under our Prime Minister, has set up a small agency that deals with low-cost housing, in which Anil was very much part of the beginning. So Anil, would you take it over from there?
Right, so Sid, a very good question.
Thank you.
And very much needed, not just in Pakistan, all third world countries. So just to be clear, I'm not personally investing or developing any business activities in Pakistan due to conflict of interest. However, as we all know, home ownership helps distribute wealth. So in the UK, Europe, the US, everyone's got a pretty good opportunity to buy their own house. The government's funding up to 95%. And in some cases, mortgage lenders with government underpinned mortgages or help to buy, like in the UK, you can get up to 95%. So in Pakistan, the Prime Minister has been very keen to see wealth distribution amongst the underprivileged. And an easy way to do that is through home ownership. So the Prime Minister's vision is to build 5 million homes and targeted for the underprivileged at low-cost housing, so distribution of wealth. Because of a passage of time with inflation, house prices always go up. Simply, I wish I didn't sell any houses that I probably bought and sold 20,000 homes in the UK. I wish I didn't sell a single one. Values always go up 10-folds, 20-folds. The first house I bought in 1989 for 22,000 is probably worth about 350,000 today. So,
is there anybody you could put Sid in touch with who actually is dealing with this project so he can make his own assessment?
Pakistan's built a new organization called agency called Pak Housing Authority. And there's a great team in there who are really facilitating, enabling developers to come forward, to fast track their planning applications, to give them good utility connections, infrastructure connections so they can build. And the where it's for underprivileged class of housing, there's an enormous amount of incentives. Banks are providing low-cost loans, not just to the end user, but to developers as well. So wealth distribution through home ownership is key. And that's what the government's doing in Pakistan. And I'll be delighted to connect you to various people in the Housing Authority. That'll be my pleasure, Sid.
Thank you very much.
Have we answered your question, Sid?
Yeah, I think that was amazing. I mean, I've been very keen to speak with you, Mr. Rangoonwala, after all your successes in the past. And what I'll do is I'll give my email to Doug, and potentially we can find a way of communicating that across. But thank you very, very much.
Sid, thank you very much indeed. I think we've got time for just one last question. So Zach, if you're there, could you ask your question, please?
Good evening, team, and thank you for excellent presentation. A few years ago, I was invited to the Dorchester Hotel by the Karachi Stock Exchange, and this room composed of some of the richest Pakistanis in the whole wide world. The issue here was the investment of their money into Pakistan, and it quickly developed into a discussion about reporting and accountability, etc. In the UK, as many of you are aware, PLC accounts have to be filed at companies house 6 months. Many of the participants in this conference said, well, there is no auditing standards and the like in Pakistan at that time. And therefore, accountability was a big issue. Anybody who wants to invest in any company or any organization wishes to use data and information. Asif is an asset management, and the importance of data to him is absolutely relevant. What Amjad has said that he wishes to have less governance. Does it less government or governance? Whereas my take on this is that actually Pakistan needs more governance. It needs the application of the Taxes Acts, the various Taxes Acts, the various auditing standards, etc.
Zach, thank you. Can I push that to Amjad? Perhaps if you could start off with that question, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. Assalamualaikum, Zach. Lovely to hear from you. I didn't say governance, I said government. In terms of entrepreneurialism and ease of doing business and red tape, etc. You'll be glad to know that some of the top financial accounting companies are in Pakistan, and I can send you some of the best reports by Bloomberg, KPMG, and GPM Morgan. I've just done a bit of work with the government, and it's 82 pages long, and you'll be glad to know that the Pakistan government has taken every single one of their recommendations and now are bringing into force. Hence, Pakistan's ease of doing business has gone through, it jumped 18 points. Now, there is a regulatory framework for investors that comes under the 1976 Foreign Private Investment Act. There's also Protection of Economic Reform Act 1992, and there's also the Investment Policy Act of 2013. I can send you all that, and I'll guarantee you it'll give you assurance that these things are being done. And like I said earlier on, 30 years of plundering and rape and pillage, we cannot solve in 2 years. But we must give credence and we must applaud Imran Khan for what he's doing, his grit and determination. It will not happen tomorrow. It will maybe take 5 years. But in terms of building the ecosystem and the framework that Zach, I know you're a forensic accountant and you pertinently and rightly ask these questions, but I assure you as an entrepreneur, that is exactly what I want. But it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And inshallah, we'll get there.
Just following that, I was invited by the Pakistan government to investigate the losses incurred by Pakistan National Railways, and I got to the final stages of that. At that time, I couldn't accept the appointment, and I'll tell you why. Because the Bribery Act had just come in. Now, we've got UK nationals professionally bound by such thing as the Bribery Act, yeah, which the Pakistani, executives, have very little credence or acceptance of. So here you've got conflict. Somebody wanting to do some work in Pakistan can't actually do it because if that's the practice is over there so fundamentally different that if they were to do that, what's asked of them in that manner, they would be actually committing a criminal offence in Pakistan. And that was one of my other issues that I had. That is there such a thing as the equivalent of a bribery act in Pakistan, and if it is it enforced?
So I think just specifically on this bribery issue, look, again, as I said, it takes, it takes two parties to do bribery, okay? So I think between what Amjad Bhai is doing here and creating this whole business forum and entrepreneurship, and between BPF and people like that, I believe that, this, as I said, it takes two to tango. If I think this whole concept of bribery and corruption and all of that has been created by, again, as I said, there are two sides to the story. So I think to avoid and go against that, it's going to be very difficult. There's already an act that exists against bribery, right? But the abuse is so wide, unfortunately, because of the problem between the haves and the have-nots and so on and so forth. So it's a long topic, Zach, and I would prefer that if there's going to be communication between us over here in the UK and people like yourselves and parties back home, I think, you just if somebody asks you for that, just avoid it. Like they say, the old adage is, if you don't ask, you don't get, right? People are not just, sometimes they just feel that you're calling from the UK, you must be extremely rich, so let's see what we can get out of you, right? So I think it's just the way the society functions there a little bit. And over a period of time, hopefully it'll be less and less. I don't know if I've answered your question, Zach.
Asif and Zach, thank you very much indeed to both of you. I have one task really, and that's to make sure that we last an hour, and I've failed in that. But I'm going to pass over to Roddy really to conclude today. So thank you very much indeed.
Roddy, may I say something before you conclude? Just one point. Listen, I think there's so much to talk about that if we all agree, we can always, I can ask Roddy and Doug to help us, and maybe between Amjad and myself and Dr. Suhail, we can actually conduct a small BPF thing, which lasts a little bit longer, so people can get what they want out of this, except just listening to us. Okay? Sorry, Roddy.
Asif, no, thank you. Well, I was going to say that. This is, if you like, the first bite at the cherry, or not to mix my metaphors, the beginning of a journey which, Asif, I'm sure you and we at the Age of Scotland Institute, because in Scotland there are substantial concentrations of British-Pakistani people in our community, and Scotland has a long historic connection with Pakistan. We will undertake to work with you to provide a platform where these conversations can be continued. They're extremely important, and I can see from the responses that we've caught the spirit of people's interest in Pakistan and in the British-Pakistan community, and we certainly undertake to do what we can to create a vibrant and useful platform for you to connect with others, and particularly to connect with some of people who are tomorrow's leaders in the United Kingdom and who need to understand what's going on. When I was a young man, they used to say, "Go west, young man." Now it's "Go east, young person." And we must embrace this, the century of Asia. So thank you, all of you, very much indeed for participating, and miraculously, the technology has supported us throughout. So we will deal with the film and its sound later on when we put it up, but thank you once again, all of you.
Thank you.